To transition from basic conversational English to the rigorous demands of university-level reading, a student must navigate massive new vocabulary and entirely new sentence structures. For Vietnamese students, this transition carries immense stakes. As the country integrates deeply into the global economic community, mastering advanced English is a mandatory requirement for higher education and professional success. To build this necessary academic literacy, the Vietnamese Ministry of Education and Training introduced the 2018 curricular reform, which established the Global Success textbook series as the primary engine for English instruction in upper secondary schools. This curriculum is built on an assumption shared by almost all educational systems. As students advance from grade 10 to 11 and finally to 12, the reading material systematically and sequentially escalates in difficulty. If that specific sequence is broken, or if the textbooks fail to provide a steady incline, students are left completely unprepared for university discourse before they even graduate. To test if this progression actually exists, a recent study analyzed a corpus of 72 reading passages across grades 10, 11, and 12 of the Global Success series. Instead of relying on human intuition or subjective difficulty ratings, the researchers processed these texts entirely through automated natural language processing tools. They applied a multi-dimensional framework to measure lexical diversity, lexical sophistication, syntactic complexity, and text cohesion. Plotting these metrics should reveal a clear, upward trending staircase from grade 10 to grade 12. But the data shatters that expectation, producing a highly dispersed scatterplot with massive overlap. The corpus analysis confirms that there is no statistically significant linear progression in complexity as the grade levels increase. Pedagogical complexity is not dictated by the grade level printed on the cover. The actual linguistic challenge varies wildly from one individual passage to the next. We can see this variance clearly by looking at the first metric, the measure of textual lexical diversity, which tracks the sheer range of unique vocabulary a student encounters in a text. The logical expectation is that grade 12 passages should demand significantly more diverse vocabulary than those in grade 10. This box plot charts lexical diversity. Mean scores rise slightly from 70 in grade 10 to 79 in grade 12, but these averages are deceptive. They mask a massive vertical spread. The heavy overlap means a grade 10 student could read a passage more diverse than one in grade 12. Because of this extreme variation, statistical testing proves the differences between these grades are entirely insignificant. The inconsistency continues when we examine lexical sophistication, which measures how often students are exposed to high-level words from the academic word list. This chart plots the percentage of text composed of academic vocabulary across the 3 years. Instead of scaling linearly, the data drops. Grade 11 passages actually contain descriptively lower academic word coverage than grade 10. Advancing a student to the next grade does not guarantee an escalation in academic vocabulary exposure. The idea that grade 11 serves as a smooth pedagogical bridge to higher learning is largely a myth. This stagnation extends beyond vocabulary and directly into the architecture of the sentences themselves. Syntactic difficulty in academic reading is defined by phrasal level density, specifically heavy nominal subjects and complex clausal subordination, rather than sentence elongation. This visualization tracks nominal subjects per clause across the textbooks. The usage is nearly identical, sitting at 0.559 in grade 10 and moving to a stagnant 0.555 in grade 12. Dependent clause metrics follow the exact same flatlined pattern, showing zero statistically significant growth over 3 years. The textbooks do shift toward themes like artificial intelligence and globalization in later years. This thematic shift creates the illusion of difficulty, but the underlying sentence structures do not actually become denser. Processing complex compressed grammar is a mandatory requirement for university reading, yet the data shows that structural densification is completely stalled across the entire upper secondary cycle. The final dimension of the framework, text cohesion, reveals a similar absence of systematic design. Cohesion relies on explicit linguistic cues, like content word overlap and logical connectives. These serve as guideposts that teach students how complex ideas link together from one sentence to the next. This line graph plots the use of logical connectives and content word overlap across the textbooks. The data is chaotic. Connective use spikes randomly in grade 11, while grade 12 actually drops in logical connectives compared to grade 10. This erratic distribution demonstrates that the series does not deploy a stable, sequenced strategy for teaching textual relationships over time. Without systematic advancement in vocabulary, syntax, or cohesion, the series effectively operates as a collection of isolated texts rather than a progressively escalating curriculum. To understand the consequences of this flat-lined progression, we have to look at the ultimate destination, the threshold of university-level academic reading. Corpus linguistics research establishes a clear benchmark. True university-level discourse requires roughly 10% of its text to be drawn from the academic word list. This comparative chart measures the final output of the grade 12 textbook materials against that 10% threshold. The grade 12 passages peak at exactly 7.17%, leaving a critical 3% gap. Falling 3% short of the academic benchmark significantly increases the frequency of unknown word families. This makes it difficult for a reader to maintain independent comprehension or benefit from incidental learning. This gap proves that educators cannot simply trust the printed grade level on a textbook cover to naturally bridge the divide to higher education. Preparing students for university requires abandoning rigid, assumed sequences. Teachers must transition to a flexible, adaptable approach that evaluates the linguistic demands of individual texts. Because complexity varies wildly from page to page, educators cannot rely on the grade level to dictate the lesson plan. If a passage contains dense propositional modifiers, teachers must actively unpack those structures in the classroom. If a text lacks academic terminology, they must implement targeted vocabulary recycling activities to compensate. To forcefully close that academic vocabulary gap, educators need to supplement the grade 11 and 12 curriculum with real-world expository texts. Building university-level proficiency requires moving beyond fixed grade-level assumptions. Success depends on auditing the linguistic data within each text and engineering the instructional response to match.